Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. It's Thursday, so week 2 is kicking off, so we're going to take a look into week 2's matchups. We're going to cover some of the injuries that were picked up in week 1, picked up during practice, and we'll talk about some of the biggest news stories from the week as well. So we've got an NFL news breakdown. We've got some picks for this week's games. We've got storylines to look out for. We've got Thursday night football. We've got injuries. It's going to be an all-inclusive week 2 episode. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Right, so welcome in everyone to the chat. Donald, Liv, Bach, Literature, Nobody, Alex, Big Country, Bach, happy to see you all this morning. Quick little update. Your boy drove 2.5 hours to make it this morning. I went up to North Carolina last night. The missus is on a little bit of a work trip. We were kind of missing each other, play the aw sound effect, whatever. Visited her last night. Came back this morning, left at 7 a.m., 2.5 hour drive just to make it here to get some more Wake and Take for you guys, the audience. And of course, who doesn't love to talk to football? I did want to shout out the coffee shop, Tallulah 1882. This is up in Tallulah Gorge, North Georgia. If any of you live in Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, in Georgia with me, highly recommend this coffee shop. Super cute. It's like a house from 1882. They've got like tea and breakfast and nice little coffee and stuff. And it is the best coffee I've ever had. Great atmosphere. Happily recommend that place. And we'll put them as an unofficial sponsor of today's show. Tallulah 82. Tallulah 82. I got a spiced vanilla latte. And man, was that thing delicious. I got a bacon, caramelized onion, and cheddar biscuit. I mean, man, was it good. And then I got to drive. Who doesn't like a good 2.5 hour drive to start their day? Got some good music going, all the fun stuff. So anyway, we're here now. We're here now. Happy to see you all. Let's go ahead and jump right into the action. And before we get into the NFL news and the week 2 game picks and all that stuff, I always like to start our weekly previews going through and talking about the injuries that were picked up that we need to keep our eye on and monitor over the weekend as we're setting our lineups and stuff like that. So here we go. And this is a laundry list. I get it. We'll try to keep it quick. I'll give a little bit of information about it for what we know. But for the most part, we don't really know too much. Like, we know if they didn't practice. We know if they're limited and all that stuff. That's about what we have to go off of. So starting with Keenan Allen, this is a heel injury. Keenan Allen picked up a heel injury in this game. In fact, I believe that Keenan Allen was actually battling a heel injury going into this game. I feel like I remember something like that from the preseason. Either way, he did not practice in Wednesday's practice with the Bears because of this. And not much update on that. Just that he's not practicing with this heel injury that he picked up. We know with Keenan Allen, it is always something. We know he also tends to play through some injuries, but the issue with that is it generally means he just makes his injury even worse than it was. So definitely something to keep your eye on. As you guys know, Keenan Allen had a fantastic week 1 in terms of target share, but we also know it's just this 1-year contract with the Bears. And we know he's getting up there in age. So if you can move on from Keenan Allen, I'm really not against it, especially if you can use him to get into DJ Moore or maybe Rome Odunze if you want to stay on the team. Or, hey, if you want to stay on the team and go to DeAndre Swift. I know he had a bad week 1, but I'm still in on the DeAndre Swift sweepstakes as well if you want to stay within the team. So either way, no practice for Keenan Allen and also no practice for his teammate Rome Odunze, who picked up a knee injury. As we know, he had an MRI on Monday. It did come back that it was a very, very minor MCL sprain. Coach Eberflus has said that he is day-to-day with this injury. So look for Rome Odunze to probably play this week, but in very limited fashion and probably not be utilized too heavily, but to just still be out there or at least even maybe just active in case anything happens maybe. But Rome Odunze not practicing, knee injury, day-to-day. Can't really see much reason for them to throw him out there given he's a rookie. And you don't want to hurt him. You don't want to hurt Rome Odunze, okay? Like, I could kind of understand, like, screw it, whatever. Let's just throw Keenan out there. But I think with Rome Odunze, especially given it's a knee injury, I would hope that they take their time. But definitely, at the very least, keep your eye on it and monitor it. I've seen him dropped, actually, in a couple redraft leagues, shallow redraft leagues. I'm talking like 10-teamers that I'm in. But still, if you're in one of those, I do recommend picking him up because I do think by the end of the season, he's going to be a huge part of this offense. Another player that has not practiced is T. Higgins. T. Higgins missed this week's game with a hamstring injury. He is still not practicing due to the same hamstring injury. Definitely temper expectations with T. Higgins. I'm not really expecting him to play again with this, especially given that it seems to me, this is all speculation, but it seems to me that part of this is Jamar Chase. Like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase kind of sitting together like, hey, let's kind of negotiate this together. Really, really put this team into dire straits so they pay us, and especially me, Jamar. So we'll see what this turns into. Again, not practicing with this hamstring injury, already missed 1 week of practice and a game. So I'm not assuming him to be back, but at least something to monitor over the rest of the weekend. Jake Ferguson is likely out. He has not been marked as out yet per ESPN's injury report with the knee injury he picked up over the weekend. He has not practiced as well this week. Probably going to end up being marked out, but as of now, they're still kind of playing cautious with it. And that is good news. You know, it is an MCL sprain, but all the reports out there are that it is a fairly minor MCL sprain and more so a knee bruise, which is also awful. Like I've had a knee bruise and that is the worst pain I've ever had. I don't want that to go to anyone. It was really, really bad. It is very, 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 very painful. But these are football players and they take Toradol and whatever else they give them to make sure that they are all good for the game. Not expecting Jake Ferguson to play in this one, but all the news and kind of reports out there does suggest that he's at least going to avoid IR, which is pretty good news. Don't expect him to play this week, but definitely expect him to return at some point within 4 weeks, which I think is good news for Jake Ferguson managers. You could probably try to buy low on him if you want. In redraft leagues and dynasty leagues as well. I mean, he was really, really good last year. Big part of this Cowboys passing offense when healthy. So if you need a tight end, you can probably get a decent one for pretty cheap right now, given his injury. But wait for him probably to officially be marked out and see if any more severity comes out from it. Next, we have Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds had a pretty decent week 1. It was really surprising, honestly, how much volume he got, given it's a new team that he's joined. He somehow picked up an Achilles injury, but it's not a torn Achilles. It looks like it's probably similar to what Christian McCaffrey's going through right now, an Achilles tendonitis or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. ESPN just says did not practice with an Achilles injury. So not good. I would say not good for Josh Reynolds. I know he had a good week 1, but I can't imagine that he'd be able to play through this injury, especially if he's not practicing all week. And it's an Achilles one that just sidelined Christian McCaffrey. At least that's what I'm kind of reading into. I feel like if it was a torn Achilles, he would be on IR, right? So I don't know what Achilles injury means, kind of extrapolating there based on the Christian McCaffrey injury, but still not practicing, probably not going to be able to play. So I'll just say this, if Troy Franklin or Marvin Mims was dropped in your league, may be worth picking them up, as Josh Reynolds actually had he might have actually led the Broncos in targets. I know he had like 8 targets or something in this game. Was probably at least close to Cortland Sutton if he wasn't first off the top of my head. But either way, that means that there's going to be targets to go around to someone. Marvin Mims not utilized at all. Troy Franklin was a healthy scratch. That could change this week. So if you're in a deeper league, those guys were dropped maybe. Go ahead and pick them up, throw them on your bench. Okay, thank you, Alex. Sutton had 12. So Josh Reynolds was second. But still, 8 targets is nothing to scoff at. Next, we've got Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams had a limited practice yesterday with an ankle injury. This makes sense. You guys might actually remember this in the game. Like it was like his second catch. He kind of got tackled weirdly and had it looked like he was like a bad injury. I got very dejected. I'll say the least. Harry Snowman can attest to this. I was very, very upset because he looked so good and then he picked up that injury and then he came back and continued to look good. So I don't think this is anything to worry about, especially since it was a limited practice, but still definitely something to note that he does at least have an ankle injury. But also, hey, that means he played through the ankle injury on Sunday when he looked that good. So we got less than 100% Jameson Williams on Sunday, and he still had 9 targets, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Let's go, J-Mo. Let's fucking go, J-Mo. Next, we've got Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd is still battling through his hamstring injury, but he did pick up a limited practice. So all things are trending towards Marshawn Lloyd returning sooner rather than later. This is excellent news for the Green Bay Packers as they clearly need another running back with Malik Willis out there. They're going to have to rely on the run. Malik Willis cannot pass the ball. So anybody in the Green Bay Packers backfield that can help spell Josh Jacobs even a little bit is good news for the Green Bay Packers and great news for people who's been holding on to Marshawn Lloyd or picked him up. I saw him dropped in way too many leagues. I saw Marshawn Lloyd dropped in way too many leagues. So definitely if you're in one of those, go pick him up. I don't get it. He missed 1 week due to injury, right? Like he's going to come back at some point. We saw how much usage Emmanuel Wilson got. Marshawn Lloyd's got some actual juice, not just as a runner, but especially as a pass catcher. You know, this Packers offense could totally utilize him when he's out there. So if he's available, go pick him up. Picked up a limited practice from his hamstring injury, trending towards returning sooner rather than later. Josh Jacobs also has an injury. Josh Jacobs has a back injury, and he was limited in practice on Wednesday as well. Given he's limited, given we haven't really heard anything about this injury, it's probably fine, but definitely still something worth noting that he's going to be playing through some sort of back injury, probably because he carries the team on his back now already 1 week into the season. He's going to have to put the team on his back. But Josh Jacobs probably fine. We've seen him play through injuries before through his career. And the fact that this was a limited practice, probably nothing to get too worried about, but definitely still something just to monitor over the weekend, especially if you own Josh Jacobs. Maybe if you feel a little off put by this, especially with how much volume he's likely going to get over the weekend, if you're maybe worried he could get hurt, you could maybe offload Josh Jacobs. I actually finally sold him in my rebuilding FFPC team. We've been following over the summer, as we know, or as some of you know, and some of you don't know, I adopted a really, really terrible FFPC orphan. Like it's an FFPC $250 league, but the team was so bad that I was able to join for $1. Like that's how bad this team was. So I've been working on rebuilding it, making some moves here and there. I traded for Josh Jacobs, even though it's a rebuilding team. And then I just traded Josh Jacobs for Zamir White, Brandon Cooks, and a first. So I'm pretty over the moon right now. I'm not going to lie. I traded Caleb Williams for Josh Jacobs and Drake May, which was my first round pick already this year. So I got my first round pick back. I got Zeus. I got Brandon Cooks, which we'll see. I'll probably just try to offload him as well. But anyway, you could probably get a king's ransom for Josh Jacobs right now because of how much volume he's going to get. Anyway, Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz also not practicing. Dalton Schultz did not practice this week with an ankle injury. Definitely something to monitor. I hadn't really heard much about this at all. But he's not practicing, which is really not good news. I mean, like he is a decent tight end for a lot of people. I mean, like just if you avoided tight end, a lot of you probably have Dalton Schultz as your guy just because he's on the Texans. Not practicing, which means you probably want to go ahead and start picking up Brevin Jordan, who for some reason has a pretty good connection with CJ Stroud. And if you're in an even deeper league, you could probably get what's his face from Ohio State, Cade Stover. He played with CJ Stroud at Ohio State, so there could already be a little bit of a connection there. But either way, Dalton Schultz not practicing with an ankle injury. Another player, Josh Downs. Josh Downs looks to be returning this week. He picked up a limited practice with his ankle injury, which is good news. Again, limited practices is really what you want to see for these players, especially if it's just an ankle injury. He's trending towards returning. If he's still available on your waiver wire, definitely pick him up. He is Anthony Richardson's favorite target. I know it's crazy. I know it's crazy to say that. I know Michael Pittman is there. But all the reports from last year were how great Anthony Richardson and Josh Downs were together. They were, throwing passes in the hotel parking lot and all that stuff. So I think that Josh Downs, when he returns, is going to be Anthony Richardson's first read, at least for the shorter routes, which could end up being pretty good. So if he's available in your league, go ahead and pick him up. Hollywood Brown still not practicing. So if you're holding out hope for the Marquise Brown, still not there. Still out with his shoulder injury, but this should be the last week he misses if the timeline is right. I want to say that this was about the last week that it should have been. I think it was a 3 to 4 week timeline. I think this would be week 4. So that's fine. If he gets back next week, week 3, that would be totally okay. Missing 2 games in a season is fine. I know it sucks that it's at the beginning of the year, but it could be worse. Could be at the end of the year. So still not practicing Hollywood Brown. Fire up your Xavier Worthy. And then go ahead and probably fire up your Rashee Rice, of course, as well, for sure. I mean, that one probably didn't have to be said. Next, we have Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer has a knee injury and is limited. Now, again, he'll probably play. This is a limited practice. Haven't really heard much about it. But as we know, Josh Palmer missed a lot of time last year, so this is just fairly concerning. I mean, this Chargers team just seems to always be cursed in the receiver health department. Josh Palmer actually not that utilized last week, so maybe this was part of it. I don't really know, but was limited. Probably still going to play, but more so, I would start to maybe kind of be raising my alarms that more injuries may be coming his way, and this could be a little bit more of an injury-prone player than we'd like to assume he is. So maybe try to buy low on some Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston maybe out there if you want to stash him in some deeper leagues. I know he's not good, but we saw he had 5 targets last week. That's not bad from Justin Herbert. So anyway, Josh Palmer, limited knee injury. Keep your eye on that. Puka Nacua, we just haven't really talked about it this week. Figured I'd go ahead and throw him on here. Puka Nacua picked up a knee injury in the game, really re-aggravated the knee injury that he picked up over the offseason, and has landed on IR. Now, when this originally happened, everyone just thought it'd be 4 weeks and then back. Well, Sean McVay has come out that he is a candidate to stay on IR for more than 4 weeks, and that this is actually a pretty severe knee injury, and they want to make sure he's healthy, which does make sense. And I'm sure it'll depend, right? Like if Cooper Kupp stays healthy and is balling, there's not much reason for them to bring Puka Nacua back. But, God forbid, knock on wood, like Cooper Kupp gets hurt or maybe like does show signs of slowing down, I could see them wanting to rush him back because this Rams team does want to compete. They don't have Matthew Stafford much longer. So yeah, but either way, IR, knee injury, Puka Nacua, buy him if he's available cheaper in your dynasty leagues. And then don't get rid of Cooper Kupp if you have him. I know it's tempting to sell high, but you've got to hold on to Cooper Kupp. Devon Achane, I saw a question in the show if you should be firing up Devon Achane tonight. And I mean, the answer is yes. Yeah, if Devon Achane's out there, you've got to play him. And that's, kind of one of the unfortunate things of rostering a player like Devon Achane is he's now, obviously, it's not even a hot take. Devon Achane is injury prone. He's always hurt, it seems. I mean, last year, like 4 different injuries, now already picking up an injury this season after the first game. But if he's out there, you've just got to play him. I mean, he is just so explosive. And while he does have an ankle injury, while he is questionable, while he is a game time decision, he has practiced this week. He practiced, I believe it was in full yesterday. He was in full at least for the media portion I saw. Not sure what that means for the whole practice, but he was out there and reporters all suggested he looked good. So Devon Achane, got to be playing tonight. You've got to be throwing him in there into your lineup, no matter what. If you have him, I see a question here. Gavin Sam says, is Jeff Wilson still the Dolphin? Yes. And he actually got some work last week after Raheem Mostert picked up his chest injury. But I will just go ahead and put myself on record. That was because of personnel. Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch because he doesn't contribute on special teams. Jeff Wilson does contribute on special teams, so he was there active on game day. Jalen Wright will be activated to the roster because Raheem Mostert is out. Jalen Wright will have more carries than Jeff Wilson, okay? Get Jalen Wright if he was dropped in your league. Pick him up. He's going to be awesome. He's got crazy explosiveness. And then it's already like unfolding before our eyes. Raheem Mostert out with a chest injury. Devon Achane questionable with an ankle injury. This was always the case. This is why we never sounded the alarms with the healthy scratch. Devon Achane was a healthy scratch in week 1 last year. So it just was never a big deal. Devon Achane playing tonight. Get him in your lineup no matter what. Even like it's just you have to with his explosiveness. So anyway, that's the Devon Achane stuff. Hold on, let me grab Pip. I'm sure you guys can hear him right now. 1 second. Pippy. It's not singing time. It's not singing time. Look at this guy. Anyway. Oh my god. All right, I gotta kick him out. Be right back, guys. Let's see. Let's do hey, we're talking about injuries. Let's hear about the injury finder.
Hey, you're in your fantasy draft and someone says, hey, that guy's injury prone, I don't want him. And you're like, I don't know, I don't think you can predict injuries. Well, guess what? Now you can! Injury proneness is real! At Player Profiler, we have the data on these players, and it's all in the Injury Finder app. Their injury track record back through time, exactly where they were injured, how severe it is. We look at the BMI data, and we crunch it all together, and we give you probabilities that a player will miss multiple games this NFL season, as well as the complete database of NFL injuries and the ability to compare two players and look at their injury track record. The Injury Finder is powerful, and it's only $5. If it's worth it to have that peace of mind when you're drafting, go get it.
Go get that injury finder, guys. And yes, that was a catchy tune. That was a catchy tune. Pip knows a plethora of songs. That was September by Earth, Wind, and Fire that he was singing. So Earth, Wind, and Fire action this morning from the Bird. Let's keep things rolling. Raheem Mostert, as mentioned, he is out with a chest injury. I'm assuming Jalen Wright will be activated and get some carries, so that's really exciting. Make sure you stash him. And then Malik Washington, I know a little bit deeper. He is out with a quad injury. Not that big of a deal. Jordan Addison did not practice with an ankle injury, but I believe this was the same thing as last week, and he ended up playing, so probably fine, but definitely something to keep your eye on. Jordan Addison not practicing with an ankle injury, but as mentioned again, last week, same thing. Did not practice with his ankle injury, was able to play in his game. Foster Moreau, he's limited with a concussion injury, so he'll probably play this week. He is limited. That's all you need to see for the concussion protocol. Shaka Zulu says that they have a bird and asks if I have a bird. Yeah, his name's Pip. He's a cockatiel. He is 9 years old, and he is my little guy. Next, we've got Roman Wilson. Guys, Roman Wilson is coming back. He's limited this week with his ankle injury. If he was dropped in any of your leagues, go ahead and pick that bad boy up. Roman Wilson is a stud. He's awesome. I know it's going to take some time, and especially with Justin Fields throwing in the ball, you're not going to get too excited about it. But in dynasty leagues, you've got to try to acquire him. In redraft leagues, if they're deeper, you can throw him on your bench as well. Limited ankle injury, hopefully coming back. Christian McCaffrey, he is probably out again this week, and it has been reported now that it is Achilles tendonitis, which I really have no idea what that means. I'm not a doctor. I don't get it. But either way, it is not a good injury. And it's something that Kyle Shanahan has actually come out and talked about and said that if it was a playoff game, he would have played. But because it's week 1 and they have Jordan Mason right now, they're fine. They're taking their time. So just don't really expect Christian McCaffrey to return anytime soon. To be honest, I just, if you have him, good luck is all I'll say about that. I don't think he'll be back anytime soon. Maybe next week, I think. Next week they take on the Rams, so that could make sense. You know, want to have him for the divisional matchup. That's a big game. But yeah, out again more than likely with Achilles tendonitis. Now, not official yet, so definitely monitor it, but go ahead and start planning ahead. Tyler Lockett, limited with a thigh injury, probably going to play. This is Tyler Lockett. He always plays through shit, but definitely concerning given his age. Jackson Smith-Njigba breakout is still on the menu, guys. Still on the menu. Keep holding out for Jackson Smith-Njigba. And Kenneth Walker did not practice. He has an oblique strain. That was the kind of abdominal pain that he mentioned. He said he's fine after the game. Said he was fine on Monday, just not practicing, but it was only the Wednesday practice, so just keep your eye on it over the course of the week. If he picks up even one limited practice, he'll be out there, and he'll probably be out there anyway. It's Kenneth Walker. He's a dog. So keep your eye on that over the weekend. Kenneth Walker, not practicing yet, but probably will be. Now, Harry Snowman is giving some great information, and we'll go ahead and jump into the news section as I did just kind of want to talk about this Christian McCaffrey injury a little bit more. Thank you, Harry Snowman, for the extra advice. According to the Mayo Clinic, the Achilles tendonitis can be treated with at-home care under doctor's supervision, and self-care is usually necessary to prevent recurring episodes. However, the more serious cases can lead to tendon tears and ruptures that may, of course, require the surgical repair, which makes sense, right? And that's probably why they're just taking their time, is they just want him to make, like, they don't want to re-aggravate or, I guess, aggravate this thing any worse than it already is. So Christian McCaffrey, very concerning. I'm going to be honest with you. When he's out there, he's going to be Christian McCaffrey. And honestly, I'm happy that they're taking their time. There's no reason for them to rush them back. Jordan Mason looked really, really good last week. And Christian McCaffrey is more so needed for the end of the season and the playoffs. So it's fine that they're taking their time. It sucks that they weren't really very open with this in, like, heading up to the season and kickoff and everything. But, you know, that's just the NFL for you. So it sucks if you spent your 101 on CMC. You know, it is what it is. He'll be back. And when he's scoring points, you won't even remember that you missed the first few weeks of the season. And yeah, if you have Jordan Mason, definitely try to get Christian McCaffrey. The Jordan Mason sweepstakes are happening now, but not much longer. And that's why I've been saying I'm not really in on Jordan Mason. I'd rather find some handcuffs that have the end of the season potential. You know, we'll see. We'll see. But either way, that is the Christian McCaffrey stuff. Achilles tendonitis. Yeah. Now, some other news. Marvin Harrison Jr. Basically, Drew Petzing has come out and said that week 1 was his fault. He said this is it. Basically, he wants to get the ball more to Marvin Harrison Jr. Here's the full quote. Certainly, he is on the forefront of our minds in terms of getting him the ball. I think the Bills did some things to take him away, and certainly I could have called some more plays to get him involved early, but I thought it was a good start. We just have some work to do. Petzing then made it known that getting Harrison the ball more was the plan and shouldered the responsibility, pointing out that it wasn't quarterback Kyler Murray's obligation to feed Harrison or anyone else. One of the things I try to stress with Kyler is that it's not his job to get certain people the ball or worry about how a guy is doing in the flow of a game. I've got to do that with the way I call the game, and he's got to make the best decision based on the look, the coverage, and how the routes are run. Kyler Murray has come out and basically said that the reason Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't thrown a lot to is because play calls weren't really going Marvin Harrison Jr.'s way. And I'm sure that that's going to change over the course of the season. It sounds like they're very aware of it, and that's what they plan to do. So I'm just going to take their word for it and not panic. We saw in Justin Jefferson's record-breaking rookie season for him, he did it, then Jamar Chase did it, then Puka Nacua did it. So this was, ages ago at this point. But, Justin Jefferson's first 8 weeks of the season weren't that great, right? He only had 2 games over 5 targets. And now those games were awesome. 26 yards, 44 yards, 175 yards, 103 yards, 23 yards, 166 yards, 26 yards, 64 yards. The first 8 weeks of the season, his rookie year, 2 receptions for 26 yards in week 1 for him. So things can certainly be turned around. We've seen it happen before in Justin Jefferson's case. So don't panic yet. Marvin Harrison Jr. is still one of the best prospects we've ever seen. And if they just start to, just scheme him open some more, call some designated Marvin Harrison Jr. plays, he will get on fire and be the guy in that offense. So definitely keep holding on to him. And hey, if he gets off to another slow start this week, go ahead and try to trade for him. Next, we've got Justin Fields. Justin Fields is expected to start this week versus the Broncos, as Russell Wilson is still limited with his calf injury. Mike Tomlin came out and said, as I sit here today, we're preparing as if Justin is our quarterback. I think that's the appropriate way to do it. Speculation is a waste of time. Russell's hurt and not available to us. So as you guys know, as a general practice, I focus my energy on those that are available and their readiness. Justin Fields starting again. He's not losing this job. Justin Fields is not losing this job. Okay. I did not expect him to get the starting job this quickly. As you guys know, I expected Russell Wilson to start, but I did always say that Justin Fields would take over at some point. You don't trade for him unless you want him, unless you want to see what you've got in him. And already to win the first week of the season, now probably going to start off 2-0 against the poor Broncos team. He's not losing this job, unfortunately. So get rid of Russell Wilson if you can. Next, we got Derrick Henry. John Harbaugh has a quote about Derrick Henry. We didn't bring Derrick in here to be the guy that gets the ball 30 times a game. He's done that before. That's not the plan. The plan is Derrick, Lamar, Mark, Isaiah, Zay, Bate, and Nelson. That's the plan in this offense going forward. And that shouldn't really be a surprise, given that the Ravens operate the best with the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands. And we saw Lamar Jackson run 16 times last week. John Harbaugh continued. I think it's going to kind of be every game different and interesting. I like the way the run game looked for the most part with just the running back run game. There were some plays that I'd like to see blocked a little better, but other plays were blocked really well. And we rushed for 185 yards overall. Of course, a lot of that was Lamar, but that's the formula. The formula is all the guys together. It's not just the one guy. I think that evaluation will be best made over the course of the season. And I'm very confident that there are going to be games where Derrick's going to have 100+ yards or more. And you're going to be asking me, why does Zay only have 2 catches? That's probably going to happen during the course of the season. And that's going to be good for us. That's what we want to be. We want to be unpredictable. So, I know a lot of you guys are, disappointed in the kind of workload that Derrick Henry got last week. But hey, he still got the touchdown. He still got a decent amount of yards. And he's just not going to be fully featured in the Ravens offense often. But like he just said, there will be games where he is. It's going to be game script dependent, right? Like I'm sure that he's going to have a 20+ carry game at some point. You'll definitely have a 100-yard game at some point, even if that only comes from one carry. Derrick Henry is still awesome. If you could get him for a cheap price, I would. And you know what? And it's probably a good thing for him not to have this type of volume right? Like he's getting up there in age. The more hits he takes, the more injuries are likely. So Derrick Henry, someone to acquire if you can get him cheaper than he was at the beginning of the season. And he's still going to have some spike weeks. And he's still the king, guys. So that's that. We've got some updates on Deshaun Watson as well. Basically, the complaint that came forward this week was that he went on a date with a woman. He showed up to her apartment, and while she was getting ready, he got naked and laid on her bed and asked for her to massage his butt. Not a masseuse, this lady, unfortunately, poor situation to be in. She was able to get him out of the apartment at some point, allegedly. I guess I need to use those terms as a person of the media. But Deshaun Watson has come out and completely denied all of those allegations. You could do with that information as you will. Give him the what we know of Deshaun Watson and what we've seen from him in the past. It sounds very Deshaun Watson, but we'll see, right? The NFL has begun their review in this process and has said that they will not place him on the exempt list while they do this investigation, which is good news for Deshaun Watson fantasy managers. The fact that, he's still going to be playing while they review, but they are reviewing. And we kind of all know how this is going to go, right? Like, I think the NFL and the Cleveland Browns are probably working together to get rid of this situation. I think they all want Deshaun Watson out of the league, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I think the Browns are looking for any reason to get out from under the contract that they unfortunately gave the man, a fully guaranteed contract. But there is verbiage in there that they can void the contract with new criminal updates, like if he gets any criminal charges and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll see how that develops. I am not hopeful. You guys already know I've been out on Deshaun Watson more than just the football field, but because of the off the field stuff too, admittedly. Like, I understand that, you should separate the art from the artist. But no, not in this case. This definitely affected his on the field play, and definitely off the field. He's a shit person. And I just don't want anything to do with that. I would much rather get Jameis Winston or any other quarterback in the league. Deshaun Watson has not been good since he's been back. And I really don't think he's going to turn it around. Unfortunately, I mean, we all like, a little bit of a redemption. But he's not being very accountable. We'll just leave it at that. He's not been very upfront in this whole process and hasn't given me any hope or pause to think that he's gotten better as a person or a player. So Deshaun Watson, going to be playing football, but probably not for much longer, or at least that's what I assume, given they are investigating him, and I'm sure they'll find some stuff and just be tired of this whole situation. And the last bit of news I have for you guys is Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. is gaining some hype from his teammates. And this is what was said. Trevor Lawrence, he's a gamer and just shows up ready to play every time he goes out there. That's exciting to see as a quarterback. Just some of the plays he made. He doesn't seem like a rookie at all. He has that quiet confidence. Christian Kirk said, as the season goes on, he'll be asked to do more. For a young guy to go out there and make the plays he did, I thought he played with a very calm demeanor and energy. A lot of people, including us, love to see him get a little emotional during the game. That was good. It set the tone. Each week, he's going to keep getting better. And then Evan Ingram said that he's a huge spark for our team. I told him today, you might be a rookie, you might be quiet, but that energy you have on Sunday, the confidence we see come out of you, that's going to help our team. We see it and we feel it. Whatever he's been doing, he needs to keep doing it. He has a bright future ahead. It's only his first game. He's going to continue to learn. He's going to get better. He's going to get more accustomed to the game, to our offense. And I can't wait to play alongside him the rest of the season and watch him grow. Get Brian Thomas Jr. while you still can, guys. If you could trade Ladd McConkey for Brian Thomas Jr., you need to do it. I know that sounds heinous. You need to do it. If you can get rid of Rashee Rice in Dynasty and get Brian Thomas Jr. plus, you should do it. If you can trade DK Metcalf for Brian Thomas Jr., you should do it. These are some trades that you should be making right now. Deebo Samuel for Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be the alpha in Jacksonville in his career, probably by the end of the season. He looks incredible. Has crazy athleticism, was dynamic at LSU last year, had a ridiculous, 17 touchdowns in a 12-game season. I mean, that's just unheard of. The guy is a true stud. They used their first-round draft pick on him. and he's already, made that worth it. Brian Thomas Jr., this is only the beginning. Get him while you still can, guys. I don't mind if you lose the trade. I want Brian Thomas Jr. I really, really do. So that's all the news. That's all the injury updates. Let's go ahead and head into the fun part of today's show. And that is just looking at week 2. I've got my Yahoo Pick'em League that you guys are able to still join, I believe. I don't remember the code. Hopefully, wait, actually, I think I might have it here. Somewhere. I think I could invite you guys. Let's see. On Yahoo. Can I not invite people anymore since it started? Never mind. I can't invite people anymore since it already started, it looks like. But hey, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will be talking very briefly about every game, some players to look out for, storylines, stuff like that, as well as my picks. And then we're going to get out of here. Then we will get out of here. So this is the Yahoo Pick'em. Yeah, here we go. We'll start. Miami versus Buffalo in Miami. It looks like, is Miami really favorited? That's ridiculous. Buffalo wins this game. Buffalo wins this game. I am surprised Miami is a favorite. I understand it's in Miami, but Miami's home field advantage comes at the 1 p.m. games, not nighttime games. Josh Allen is awesome in prime time. And plus, now we have less than 100% Devon Achane, no Raheem Mostert. Yeah, we're going with Buffalo in this game. Things to watch out for. One, we've got to continue to watch the Buffalo target splits. Again, I am one that thinks that this is going to continue to be spread out with no true alpha over the course of the season. But this is a week where I can be proven wrong. Like if Dalton Kincaid goes out there and gets 15 targets, 100 yards, and a couple touchdowns, then I will admit that I was wrong. I don't think that'll happen, but hey, that's something to watch out for. Is Khalil Shakir still the target leader? Is everyone still getting involved? Does Mac Hollins still get 3 targets? I still think it's going to be that. I think Khalil Shakir will get 5 targets. Dalton Kincaid will get 3 targets. Dawson Knox will get 3 targets. James Cook will get 4 targets. It's just going to be spread around. But this is a game where that could change. Given in week 1, it did seem that the strategy from the Cardinals was to take away the tight end. So we could see maybe now the Dolphins see that didn't really work. That they, just kind of just play defense, and just don't cover a certain person. And that might open up the field for Kincaid. But I mostly want to watch Keon Coleman in this game. Keon Coleman was sneaky good last week, led the team in targets. And that could continue in this game. So definitely keep your eye on that. Who gets the ball in Buffalo in terms of receiving. And then in Miami, not too much to ask, really. I mean, we're watching Devon Achane in his health. Mostly, I want to watch Jalen Wright. I'm curious to see what he looks like. I really think he's going to start not start. I think he'll be on the active roster and get some volume. And I'm just curious to see how he looks. I think he's going to be awesome. I love some Jalen Wright. Definitely stash him before this game. Yeah. Otherwise, Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, right? Hey, that's just how it is. Next game, we've got the Cowboys hosting the Saints. The Cowboys favored by 6.5 points. And yeah, we'll buy it. We'll buy it. I'm going to call Saints frauds. I think that last week's game was a byproduct of the Panthers falling flat. The Saints are not always going to be that good. Derek Carr is not always going to be that good. And the Dallas Cowboys are an actual NFL team. The Carolina Panthers are a glorified university at this point. Even with the 6.5 point spread, I think the Cowboys could easily give it to the Saints at home. And yeah, I mean, that's it, right? So what we're going to be looking out for in this game is what they look like without Jake Ferguson. This should be a pretty big game for Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb. But hey, can Luke Schoonmaker go in there and actually get some volume? We know that he's got some athleticism and was pretty good at Michigan. A tight end I did like, so I'm curious to watch him and see what he looks like in the game against the Saints. And then on the Saints side of the ball, can Chris Olave get volume? Can he just get some damn volume? Because it looks like, as of right now, and things even last season almost, Derek Carr really likes Rashid Shaheed. And it seems that Rashid Shaheed just continues to get free and score those touchdowns. If he can do it again against Dallas, then Rashid Shaheed's going to be one of the biggest steals of the offseason. And I will definitely have egg on my face. I was scared to go after him. I really thought, the Saints only gave him $2 million. I think it might have only been 1.5. Wait, it was 4.5. It was $4.5 million, but still, that's so cheap for a true wide receiver. It didn't make sense to me. But either way, Definitely curious to see what the Saints look like. If Chris Olave can get a serious amount of volume, that's what I'm looking for. I do expect an Alvin Kamara game. This screams Alvin Kamara, like 7 receptions to me. So I do want to start him up. And I actually did throw him into my DraftKings lineup that I'll share after this. Next, we have Detroit versus the Buccaneers. Detroit at home, favored by 7. We'll say the Buccaneers cover. We will say the Buccaneers cover, but the Lions win by like 3 or so. We saw this game last in the playoffs, right? And it was still only a 1-score game. Tampa looked really awesome last week. I don't really think that's going to change. While I think the Saints are frauds, I don't think the Buccaneers are. Baker looked really good. Mike Evans looked really good. Chris Godwin looked really good. Bucky Irving and Rachaad White looked really good. Jalen McMillan looked really good. The defense looked really good. The offensive line looked really good. The Buccaneers look really good. So I think they'll be able to take it to Detroit, keep this a 1-score game, and cover the spread, but the Lions still win on like a last-second 60-yard Jake Bates field goal or something like that. The big story here, you already know. If you are watching for the Detroit Lions, you have got to see if Jameson Williams keeps it up. If he gets another 5+ target game, we know the breakout season is upon us. We already know it, but I know there's still some haters and doubters out there. If he has another 5+ target game, scores another touchdown, gets 90+ yards, then he's here to stay. And it's just going to be an electric season going forward. But also just, how the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs split. This should be a tough game for David Montgomery. This is definitely more of a Jahmyr Gibbs game with, Vita Vea on the defensive line. So that's something to keep your eye on. Can, a tough running matchup just make it a Jahmyr Gibbs game and they just rest David Montgomery? I'm unsure. Curious to watch it. And on the Buccaneers side of the ball, I want to see if Jalen McMillan gets more involved. I know he scored the touchdown last week, but I want to see him run a few more routes and get a few more targets. I also want to see a Cade Otton bounce back. He was not really utilized last week. I would like to see him utilized. That was a kind of late round tight end target of a lot of people. And I do still think he has some talent and should get some volume. So that's something curious to watch out for too. And then, of course, the big thing was the Bucky Irving usage part of the game script, or do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really want to utilize Bucky Irving in a split with Rachaad White? That could be horrible news for Rachaad White. This should be a very competitive game. So if there is another like 60-40 split, that's an issue. If it's back to Rachaad White being a bell cow, then we know it was just game script. So that's going to be really important to watch in this game. Next, we've got Colts heading to Green Bay. The Colts are favored by 3.5, and we're just going to give it to them. I mean, we saw the Colts do really, really well against the Texans last week. If Anthony Richardson stays healthy, the Colts just score points. To only complete 9 passes and still have over 200 passing yards is just absolutely ridiculous. And I just don't think the Green Bay defense, I don't think any defense is really going to be able to stop Anthony Richardson this season, at least in terms of scoring points. And especially on the Green Bay side, they're just going to look awful. Malik Willis is not a good quarterback. It's going to be a run-heavy game. Could be, as Tommy Thunder says here in the chat, this could be a Jonathan Taylor game. I'm not against that at all. I think, maybe the first half is how the Colts look, and then the second half, they just run out the clock. Maybe look for some Trey Sermon action. I mean, Jesus Christ. But not expecting much from the Packers here. I would sit every Packer except Josh Jacobs. To be honest with you, I'm not really going to start Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. If I started a Packers receiver, I know this is a hot take. It's going to be Christian Watson. We've seen him utilized like this before, where jet sweeps, screens, drag routes. Like, I think if any of these wide receivers is going to take it to the house, it would be Christian Watson with Malik Willis, but I'm not comfortable enough to start him. Sit all Green Bay receivers and throw Josh Jacobs into your lineup, as he might get like 40 touches in this game. Next, we've got Jets, Titans. Jets favored by 3.5, heading to Tennessee. I'll give it to them. I don't feel great about it, but I'll give it to them. The Titans did not look good last week, and the Jets actually have a good defense. The Bears, they have a good defense too, right? So, I mean, that makes sense that Will Levis didn't look that great, but I don't think this is a bounce back week quite yet. I do think this will be relatively low scoring, like 21-17, maybe something like that. 24-20. I don't know. But either way, going to give it to the Jets. The big thing to watch out for this game on the Jets side of the ball, is Alan Lazard. Does he continue to get looks? I think he will. Aaron Rodgers and him are buddies. They've played together a really long time. I think he'll continue to get looks. But this should be a Garrett Wilson week. Jets versus Titans should be a Garrett Wilson week. So just keep your eye on that. I would be disappointed if he has another just mediocre game. So that's something to keep your eye on for the Jets. And then on the Titans, Will Levis, you got to stop turning the ball over, bud. You got to. And then on the other side, who has Sauce Gardner? Calvin Ridley, probably. So can DeAndre Hopkins bounce back? That's what I'm looking for. And then, of course, just Tony Pollard. We just saw Jordan Mason run wild against this Jets defense. Can Tony Pollard do it? That could be pretty sweet and really, really give some sort of confidence boost to a lot of Tony Pollard drafters. I'm sure they're already feeling great after week 1. Could be even better going forward. Next, we've got Niners-Vikings. 6 points for the Niners in Minnesota. Yeah, we'll give it to them. I mean, they looked awesome last week against the Jets. It is Sam Darnold, right, who just played for the 49ers, so I'm sure they're going to be able to scheme up something. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put the take out there. Sam Darnold looks awful this week. I know he looked incredible in week 1. That's just what Sam Darnold does. He looks awesome for 1 week and then turns back into a pumpkin. That continues here against a very, very tough San Francisco defense. So I'll actually say sits every Viking, even Justin Jefferson. I know that's crazy, but I'm going to go hot on that one. In San Francisco, I mean, we're watching. Does Jordan Mason still get every single carry? Or since it's week 2, do they start to maybe work in Isaac Guerrero or something? That's something I want to watch out for. Does Juszczyk and Debo still get the type of usage they got as well? I think the San Francisco backfield is very interesting to keep our eye on while CMC is out. And then on the Minnesota side of the ball, I just want to see if Sam Darnold can keep it going. Like I just said, my take is that he can't and that you should sit the Vikings this week, but we'll see, right? I mean, like, he could prove me wrong. Seahawks versus Patriots. Seahawks favored by 3.5 in New England, and I'm just going to keep it going. I think the Patriots keep it going. This team looked awesome last week in terms of a football field, or in terms of a football team, right? Like, they play really slow. They play really methodical. They take the air out of the ball. They force turnovers. They're scrappy. That's the exact type of team that should make Seattle struggle. Seattle already struggled last week. Geno Smith did not look very good in the pass game. I think that could continue against this stingy Patriots defense. So they'll at least cover. And you know what? Give them the home team win, right? I mean, they just went into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. Why couldn't they stay at home and beat the Seahawks? So that's just something to watch, right? We are curious how the wide receiver splits continue. We're curious how the Ramondre Stevenson split continues. And then on the Seahawks side of the ball, can Kenneth Walker keep the momentum going? And then how does this passing game look? Can they start to improve? This should be a bad Patriots defense. I know they looked good. So can they, maybe bring something out of this offense and actually look good against this defense? I'm not sure, but this could be a get right week for the Seahawks. So definitely a big game to watch. Commanders, Giants. Commanders only favored by 1.5. I think they easily do that. I know the Giants, I know the Commanders defense is really bad, but so is the Giants. And the Commanders offense also looked pretty good last week. So I think they keep things going. I am very, very excited to watch the pass catchers this week. Not much pass volume really to any particular person, and most of that is the Buccaneers defense. They're very, very stingy against the pass and the run. They're just a stingy defense. The Giants secondary in general is awful. So this should be more of a passing game. So I'm curious to see how Zach Ertz and Terry McLaurin look for sure, but also Luke McCaffrey, who looked to be Jaden Daniels' favorite target. Can he keep things going in this game? I think so. And then, of course, on the Giants side of the ball, the Commanders' defense is also not that good. So can they bounce back? It's possible that the Vikings' defense is really good. Brian Flores really did turn that defense around. So it's possible that was just a bad week. Can the Giants bounce back? And then what does that mean, right? Does Malik Neighbors get more volume? Can Devin Singletary be usable? Does Wan'Dale Robinson still get more than 10 targets? Those are all things to look out for in this game. But the Commanders should easily win this one. Definitely fire up your Jaden Daniels. Should be a huge week for him. And then also I think Brian Robinson gets back on track this week too. We saw him get a true bell cow usage. I think it continues. Next we have the Chargers, Panthers. 6.5 points is huge, but I think the Chargers could do it. This is a good football team. I'm starting Justin Herbert on my DFS lineup on DraftKings. Just as what we saw Derek Carr do to this defense last week. I think Justin Herbert can do just that and more. I think they could definitely win by 6.5, at least 7. And I think they really give it to the Panthers. We've got to keep our eye on if Josh Palmer plays. And then if he doesn't, what does that mean for Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston? I mean, we are in Quentin Johnston season if Josh Palmer's gone because DJ Chark's already on IR too. But then also, to another degree, does that mean Brendan Rice sees the field? That's a big player to keep our eye on. And then the Panthers. We saw that there was actually a meeting this week with Dave Canales and Dave Tepper. Not sure what that meeting entailed, but I would assume if I am Dave Canales requesting that meeting, I just want to yell at Tepper. So hopefully maybe things start to look a little bit better. They find some identity this week. I don't know, but that's all we're looking for is just a bounce back, right? Like, can the Panthers look decent? Next, we have Jaguars versus Browns. Jaguars at home, favored by 3. We'll give it to them. Again, this Browns team with Deshaun Watson is not good. Even if the defense is good, I just don't believe in them. I think the Jaguars can keep this going. Big person to watch out for, of course, is the whole team, but Brian Thomas Jr., can he keep things going? Can he actually even get more targets? That would be huge. And then the Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne split. Does that continue as well? Or does Travis Etienne go back to true bell cow usage? Those are 2 stories to watch on the Jaguars. And then on the Browns, I guess what tight end outside of David Njoku? It's Jordan Atkins probably. How much usage does he get? Is he even startable? Probably not, but something to keep your eye out for. And then just the rest of the offense too. Can Jerome Ford get it going? Can Deshaun Watson bounce back? I don't think so, but can he? This could be a get-right game. The Jaguars' defense isn't really that great. So just keep your eye on that, all the usage for the Browns players. Ravens, Raiders. Baltimore at home against the Raiders, favored by 9.5. That's a huge, that is so huge that I don't feel comfortable picking it. I mean, I think the Ravens win, but I think that the Raiders could totally cover that. Just the type of football team they are. They love these types of games in particular. They show up on the big stages for the upset. So we'll go with the Raiders cover the 9.5 point spread, but the Ravens win it. And then the big thing to watch on the Ravens side of the ball is Isaiah Likely versus Mark Andrews. Does that continue to be hugely in Likely's favor, or does it continue to work into a closer split? Justice Hill versus Derrick Henry. Was that game script? Last week the Ravens were playing from behind a lot, doing a lot of, longer down stuff. So Justice Hill was out there. In a bad game against the Raiders, could Derrick Henry get more involved? And then, is Devontae Walker a healthy scratch again? If so, that's pretty disappointing. Not going to lie. But definitely just something to keep your eye on there. And then in the Raiders, we've got to keep our eye on the Alexander Madison, Zamir White split. Does that continue? Does Alexander Madison get more usage? It could already be nail in the coffin season for Zamir White. So that is huge news. And then also Brock Bowers, is he still an alpha? Is he still leading this team in targets? Probably. And then if so, that's awesome news for all the drafters, and really, really bad news for Devontae Adams managers as well. As we were hoping Devontae Adams would be the guy, but it's looking like it might just be Brock Bowers. So just keep your eye on that, see if that continues. Cardinals, Rams. Cardinals favored by 1.5 at home versus the Rams. And, I'm going to go with the Rams upset. I know they don't have Puka Nacua, and I know I like the Cardinals, but something about this game just feels like Rams. These NFC West divisional matchups always end up being really, really close. And why not just a vintage Matthew Stafford Cooper Kupp game? I think they could be fired up without Nacua and just run wild against this Arizona defense. Give me the Rams. And it shows, right? Like if the Rams are at home, they would be the favorite. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it to them. But this should be a shootout. This should be a very, very fun game. I like this one a lot. Starting a lot of Cardinals and Rams this week. Big thing to watch on Arizona. Does Marvin Harrison Jr. get it more involved? I hope so and think so. But does he? That's what we need to watch out for. And then just, how does that affect the rest of the pass catchers? And then the run game too. Last week we saw Trey Benson actually get some carries and stuff. Can he start to push James Conner? That would be awesome. Probably not, but just something to keep your eye on. And then for the Rams, of course, can Cooper Kupp get another 20-plus target game? And then outside of him, who is it? Last week it was Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson. This week I think it'll be Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Whittington. I'm not really in on the Tyler Johnson sweepstakes. I think that was more of a week 1 thing. And Jordan Whittington actually scored a touchdown last week that was called back. So I think Jordan Whittington gets more involved with Puka Nacua out. So if Jordan Whittington's still available, definitely pick him up. That's someone to look out for in this game. And then, of course, just Kyron Williams, maybe just Blake Corum see the field. We need to watch out for the Rams backfield as well. Next, we've got the Steelers versus the Broncos. Steelers favored by 3, but heading to Denver. I think they cover that. I think they win by a decent bit. This Broncos team, I think, is just going to take some time. And if I am Bo Nix, I am not sleeping this week. Could you imagine being Bo Nix with that offensive line, with his weapons, going up against TJ Watt? Awful news. TJ Watt is going to have a career game. And you know what? Justin Fields might not even have to do anything. The Steelers defense might win this game. Shouldn't be good for them or for the Broncos at all. We'll go with the Steelers here. Huge things to watch out for. I mean, Justin Fields, does he keep things going? Does he not turn the ball over? If he continues to not turn the ball over, again, I don't think he's losing this job. But then also, does Roman Wilson play? We want to see that. We want to see if Jaylen Warren starts to get healthy and split the backfield as well. Big things to watch out for in Pittsburgh. And then on Denver, just can they survive? That's all we're watching out for. Can they survive? Because I would be so scared going up against TJ Watt right now. All I'm saying, Tommy Thunder is so right. TJ Watt may literally take Bo Nix's soul. So yeah. But then Jaleel McLaughlin, with that being the case, can he get even more heavily involved? I think so. It's looking like Jaleel McLaughlin was the Broncos running back that we should have been drafting. Again, I was just avoiding him. I didn't want to take a shot on any of them, and I'm still glad I didn't. But I am putting in some claims for Jaleel McLaughlin where available because he's going to be the pass catcher, and they're going to be down a lot. Chiefs, Bengals. Chiefs by 6? No. Bengals cover. Chiefs still win. I know it's in Kansas City, but I think that, the Bengals are like 1-5 the last 6 years in week 1. And I think that they are probably fired up that they lost this game to the Patriots. And this is just one of the games that the Bengals always wake up for. Joe Burrow rarely beats the Chiefs, but he always keeps it close. Jamar Chase's best career games are against the Chiefs too. I think this could be a huge Jamar Chase game to help keep it close. I think we see some more Chase Brown as well to help keep it close. The Chiefs could easily win by 6, but I think the right betting move is to say the Bengals cover here, and we have a competitive game because I think that last week was more of an outlier, and we get some real Bengals football this week. Hopefully. Jamar Chase could still be pussyfooting around his contract. Now, what should we look out for in Cincinnati? That, right? Is Jamar Chase out there and back to being Jamar Chase? The backfield split, is it still more Zach Moss, or is this a game script where we start to see some more Chase Brown? And then just Andre Yoshavas. Is T. Higgins out there? Mike Gesicki, can he get more volume? I hope so. Mike Gesicki was my sleeper tight end flag plant after Jelani Woods went down. But anyway, keep your eye on that, on the Bengals, and then on the Chiefs, just the splits, right? Does Travis Kelce have the same amount of targets as Noah Gray again? That's a concern. Does Xavier Worthy get more volume? That could be huge. Does Rashee Rice get the same amount of volume? Probably, but just something to keep your eye out for. And then Isaiah Pacheco, is he still the true bell cow, or does maybe Carson Steele start to get some more volume now that it's week 2? Lots of things to watch out for in this game. Should be a fun one. Next, we've got the Texans versus the Bears. The Texans favored by 7. Yeah, I think the Texans could actually totally house the Rams at home. I know the Bears won last week, and this is a very stingy defense, but CJ Stroud's just a different animal. And I could also just see him going up against Caleb Williams, firing him up. I could really see the Texans just giving it to the Bears. It'll probably be close, but we'll go with them covering and winning by almost 2 scores. We'll go with the Texans here. I like them a lot. Should be fun. Things to watch out for. If there's no Dalton Schultz, just the tight end splits, who gets it? But then Joe Mixon, does he continue to get every opportunity and then some? And then just Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. Last week, Stephon Diggs was only good because of touchdowns. It'll be nice to see if he can do it without touchdowns in this game. The answer is probably not, which is why you still need Tank Dell if you can get him. Definitely buy Tank Dell if you can get him. I think that this would be a get-right game for him. So something to keep your eye on there. Just, is Nico Collins still the one as well? I think so. I think he's the de facto number 1. But does he keep it up, or does it really rotate? We'll probably have that answer here in week 2. Then the last game, Monday Night Football. Falcons heading to the Eagles in Philadelphia. Eagles favored by 6.5. They'll win the game, but the Falcons will cover. And I understand that last week the Falcons lost to the Steelers. And I know that you guys might call me a homer for this one, but I was pretty impressed by what I saw from that Falcons defense, and I think they'll be able to keep this close. We know that Jalen Hurts turns the ball over all the time. So I think that turnovers will help keep Atlanta in this game. I don't think they win it, but I damn sure think that they could cover. And I just think the more time that Kirk Cousins has to heal, the more confident he'll get in his Achilles, and the better this offense will get as a whole. So I don't want to overreact too much to week one. I still believe in this Falcons team. And I think that they could keep it within 6.5 with the Eagles, even in Philadelphia. Again, Jalen Hurts just turns the ball over so much that I think he could get it done, or at least the Falcons can get it done on defense. I mean, they looked pretty good on defense last week. I mean, they like Justin Fields had like 15 carries and only like 50 something rush yards. So that's pretty damn good to say when it comes to Justin Fields. So Atlanta Falcons, I think they could at least keep it close. But yeah, the Eagles win this. I'm curious who gets AJ Brown. You know, is it AJ versus AJ Terrell versus AJ Brown, or do they just keep AJ? Like, I don't know. I just want to watch that. Basically, who gets AJ Terrell is what I'm curious to see. Is it Devontae? Is it AJ? Probably AJ, but still. And then, yeah, whoever doesn't get AJ should have a big game. So this should be a Devontae Smith week, to be honest. But definitely keep your eye on it. Also, can Dallas Goedert get some more volume? That's something to look out for this week. And then, of course, can Saquon Barkley keep it going? Probably. And the answer is actually definitely. Saquon's a beast. But just something to watch this week. You know, maybe do they start to involve someone else in the backfield? Probably not. But hey, something to keep your eye on there. Can Will Shipley maybe separate himself from Kenneth Gainwell? That could be huge. And then just on the Falcons side of the ball, we're just all watching Kirk Cousins. You know, does he start to roll out of the pocket a bit more? Do they move out of shotgun and pistol sets? You know, like, can they do some extra stuff? Can they bring the play action game in? They didn't really do much play action last week. I don't think they did any play action, actually. So that's something to keep your eye on there. Does Bijan Robinson still get the entire workload? I think he will, but just something to watch there. And then, of course, just Kyle Pitts versus Drake London. That's what we're going to be watching all season. You guys know it. I'm on the Kyle Pitts side of that equation, but still fun to watch and see the breakdown and everything in this game. Yeah, cool. That is, we'll go with them covering, but yeah, the Eagles definitely still win. Let me save my picks. And yeah, looks like I'm in first place, by the way, out of 9. So, hey, Wake and Take Pick'em League going strong. Cool. That is everything I have for you guys. I'll hop into the chat real quick and see if we have any questions. I decided to stop sharing like Thursday night football stuff. That never goes well all season. But I did make a DraftKings lineup. I'll just go ahead and share it just so you guys see it. I'll post it to Twitter probably too on Sunday. But this is for Sunday. Oops, no, I don't want to bulk enter. I don't know if you could see this. Justin Herbert, Alvin Kamara, Brian Robinson Jr., Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Jordan Whittington, Trey McBride, Alan Lazard, and the Patriots defense against the Seahawks. That's what I'm going with there. Still have 400 remaining salary, so it's pretty decent. And yeah, anyway, any questions in the chat? Is Josh Jacobs a must start this week? Yeah. Would you sit Montgomery to play Jalen Wright? No, you still got to start Montgomery. While I do think it'll be a tough matchup, you can't get cute with him. He could easily still just score a touchdown. Start Kincaid or Likely? I mean, probably Kincaid. I mean, like, I know it's tough to go against what we saw in week 1, but again, I'm still going to be firm in my belief that was a week 1 thing for Isaiah Likely. You know, just Mark Andrews less than 100%. The game plan being that the Chiefs were taking away Andrews. I do think that Likely will still be a big part of this offense, but Kincaid still has that number 1 potential. Even if I don't believe in it, I think the process is to still go with Kincaid, especially since this should be a shootout against Miami. Let's see. You have Jordan Mason and Jalen Wright trying to trade Marvin Harrison Jr. to the CMC A-Chain owner for a running back full PPR. Thoughts? Definitely hold on to Marvin Harrison Jr. You want him on your team. Mr. Limited. I like that. That was on Russell Wilson. That's good. Tua or Goff this week? Probably just Goff. Well, I don't know. What do we got? Lions versus Tampa? Yeah, go with Tua. Just go with Tua. Who doesn't like having extra stakes in Thursday night football, right? And we just saw Kyler Murray go crazy against this Bills defense. Tua still has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Devon Achane's less than 100%, so they might actually have to lean on the pass game a little bit more. That I believe is it. Maybe not. Nobody needs a lottery ticket, or who's a better Band-Aid, actually, Wan'Dale Robinson or Tyler Johnson? The answer is Wan'Dale Robinson. He'll be utilized way more than Tyler Johnson. How much fab should you place on Jordan Love? If it is super flex, you should just throw that whole thing at it. Just get Jordan Love on your team if it's super flex. How do I feel about Isaac Guerendo? I like him a lot. I really do think that he is very explosive and will be utilized at some point this season in the backfield. Mayfield versus Detroit or Brock Purdy probably just throw Brock Purdy out there. You know, it's Brock Purdy. He'll be fine. Baker Mayfield looked awesome last week and probably should still be awesome against Detroit. But Brock Purdy just has the higher floor with all those weapons. Going up against Minnesota, I think could end up being a good game for Purdy. That's a tough one, but yeah, cool. That should do it, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you go check out Dynasty Life. That should be live right now on the Player Profiler YouTube with Theo Greminger. And then also tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on the FFPC and Better Network, I will be joining, I will be on the Better Network and FFPC show tonight alongside Eric Balkman. Eric Balkman and I will be chopping it up tonight. So make sure you tune into that as we talk about, I'm assuming, week 2 and stuff. Haven't seen the show sheet yet. But yeah, should be a fun show. Tune into that tonight. Go check out Dynasty Life. You all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Have a terrific Thursday, a wonderful rest of your week. And I'll see you tomorrow with special guest Theo Greminger as we break down some more week 2 stuff, give some reactions to week 1 and all that cool stuff. So see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.